Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. Our guest this evening is somebody who's going to help with this question. Sri Lanka, local government polls. Winner takes it all? Let's find out. The guest tonight is Leni Fernando, who is a attorney at law and also representing the SJB, and she's a candidate at the forthcoming local government elections in Moratuwa. Very good evening to you, Leni.
Good evening, Faraz, and thank you for having me today.
Absolutely, our pleasure. Now then, tell me, our card says here, Sri Lanka, local government polls, winner takes it all. Really? Who's going to be the winner at the end of the day?
I most certainly hope the people will be the winner, because I think if they come with the SJB, most certainly the people will be the winner.
So they got to choose right.
They got to choose right, and I think local polls are very important, and we are having elections at a very crucial time in the country, and it is important that the voter comes out and vote, because you know, when it comes to, people think it's general elections or the presidential election, and people do not tend to give prominence to the local council, but it is very important to choose the right people, because as much as people say we want to get rid of the 225, it is also important that you elect the right people to your local councils, because presently if you see local councils today, I would say are very corrupt havens. So it is important that you elect the right people, and you vote for a system where a party that can ensure depoliticization of the local councils and ensure that the taxpayer gets the benefit. So you need to have a mix of educated people as well as people who are grounded, who will have the knowledge and the practical experience to execute, which is very important. You know, what happens is you see people coming and, you know, saying various strategies and, like, you know, be huge utopia on what we can do. And some are trying to take this local council election to like a national election, to kind of, you know, give people a signal that this is sort of like a referendum, like a litmus test on where the government stands. But here, all in all, it is a local council election, and you got to elect the people who are grounded there and people who will actually do justice to the taxpayers' money.
In the area
they live, and also they must select the right people, honest people, and people who can actually deliver.
Is that now you're representing the Moratuwa Municipal Council area? How difficult is it for the residents of Moratuwa to find somebody of unquestioned integrity?
Actually, if you really see now, the Moratuwa Municipal Council for the past 15 years has been ruled by one mayoral candidate. The ex-mayor, I don't want to say his name, he's a very tainted character who was arrested many a times and who was also responsible for the May 9th attack of Gotago Gama. So actually, I think people of Moratuwa...
Has he been named somewhere as the attacker?
He was part of it. He was arrested, and you know, not just once, multiple times for different issues, even during Corona time, distributing tokens to people for injections. So, you know, he has gone the way through. So I think, and his administration for the last 15 years, I don't think have delivered justice to the people of Moratuwa. Because if you take Moratuwa, there are different constituents, from the middle class to the fishermen to the carpenters.
Do you think this problem is replicated in other councils as well?
Yes, because what happens is, it's sad for me to say, SLPP, when they were in governance, when they came in 2005, the system that they developed in this country was all linked to corruption. It was, you know, how do you earn better? So the corruption not only was vested with the Rajapaksas at the top, but they bled corruption to the people at the bottom. And I can very clearly say, even with responsibility, that the council that I represent is a corrupt haven. If the bricks in that council can talk, those will also say that, you know, those are bought out of corrupt money. Corruption at every level, from the garbage truck, collection of garbage, to cleaning of drains, to even paying legal fees to the lawyers. Even that, there is corruption at every level. So, you know, you need a system, you need people with integrity, people with honesty, who will do justice to the taxpayers' money, where taxes will be collected, and it will be utilized effectively, and not at every point that it is taken in the sense of robbing. So I think what is very important is depoliticization of the council system, where you can provide, they have to provide services to the people irrespective of the political connections. Now what we see there for us, now if you have to clean, tar your roads, or if you have to clean your drains, if you know the area Nagarika Mantri, you can get it done. Yes, the government council has systems, but the systems don't operate. It is all on connection. The council must operate. That is the due responsibility, and the mayor there must ensure to provide services equally to everyone.
And how do you break this sort of culture?
See, again,
of badness.
Again, systems, processes need to come in. Tech-enabled governance must be brought in. A very transparent system where, you know, now we are talking about digitalization, where garbage lorries, where there are route plans, all those things can be viewed in a transparent manner for the people. And then people know when the things are happening. Even if you come to the councils to get your plan passed, you need to be given a certain timeline saying this will happen. The file doesn't have to go under the table, and you don't have to pass a certain block of money for things to happen.
I was going to ask, what's the going rate now?
It varies.
It varies?
It varies.
According to the size of the house?
And then, let me not comment on that.
Okay, all right. So, I just thought I'll ask on behalf of the public.
It is shameful for us, because, I mean, there are regulations, there are rules, but everything happens outside. So you need people who will actually understand and who will work with integrity and honesty to ensure that the right thing is done. Which is, I think, the cry of the people, even from the Aragalaya, you know, how we need to get rid of corruption. So there is no better time than now to ensure that you elect the right people to the council.
As a candidate at the Moratuwa municipal area, how much do you think that the voters, your constituents, how much do you think they'll be taking note of what went on at Aragalaya?
I think people are far more politically educated now after the Aragalaya. I think a lot of taboo topics became topics of discussion. I think people are a little more politically savvy. At least they understand that they need to elect the right leader, and they understand that what welfare politics, the destruction that welfare politics has brought to this country, and how it is important to be principle centric in politics, how it is important to have policy based governance versus political rhetorics. Because I'm openly saying, we saw the organizations like Viatmaga coming and promising, then we saw people coming and giving various promises, but when it came to ground reality, we saw the difference. So, you know, and as I said earlier, how when SLPP came to power in 2005, how they built a system of corruption where the local councillors were sort of like the collectors of money, corrupt collectors of money for the party. It was a well-established structure. Now, I was telling at some discussion for us that if you want to get rid of these regimes, you must get rid of the networks that are with the regimes. So one of the fundamental networks are the local councils. So local councils, the local council administration, and the Nagarika Mantri's network. So this whole thing needs, this election, I think, is crucial to get rid of this. That's what I'm saying. I mean, there are educated people that are being brought in. You must look at the people who are actually running, look at their profiles, look at their qualifications, look what they can bring to the table, look how experienced they are, look how passionate they are, how they understand the ground realities.
What sort of votes do you have? How many votes is there in all?
Altogether in Moratuwa, it will be close to about 120,000.
Right. And of these, how many do you reckon are sophisticated enough to realize that, look, we can't just be voting on the color of their party or whatever it is? How many do you think? Do you think at least 50% will be looking at?
Yeah, I think so, because if you take Moratuwa, if you take the entire area, you get a slum line, which is the beach line. Then you get the carpenters. Then in the middle you get the educated. So if you really take, it can be the bottom tier Sec D, Sec E categories can be about 50%, and Sec B, Sec C will be about another 50%. So, but again, what is important is for them, you know, to understand the science of politics and what they are voting for. Now, we have the colors that we belong to. Are we going to be that in this coming election, or are we going to make a sound decision on that we want real change in this country, and what parties can actually offer change? Now, it is important for us that now we see in Sri Lanka that like proper political narratives are being played on social media, massive digitalized campaigns where, you know, some people are saying that this election is equivalent to a litmus test for, you know, like a complete turnaround. But then you got to understand that is this also another narrative similar to what happened in 2018?
Yeah.
Because 2018 when I ran, we saw how the whole local council entire thing got swept away to the Pohot tour.
Yeah.
And the rhetoric they sold at that time was after the LG elections, President Mahinda Rajapaksa will be made the prime ministerial candidate, because you saw in 2015 the Yahapalana came, and then there was a dip, and then 2018 came the local council election, and what their narrative there was Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa will be the PM candidate, and then people voted for that, and they didn't care who the local councillors were. And then it led to another set of disastrous situation. Now we see a similar trend repeating right now with this one party coming and saying that this is somewhat similar to, you know, that they need to be given power, that they are changing everything, and that 74 years of governance have brought destruction to this country, which I think is an absolute lie. Because if 74 years, if it was destruction, you and I should be in the dark, and there can't be projects like Mahavali and things like that. So I mean, you know, people need to understand the narrative.
But we also have the wonderful projects like the Matala International Airport. We have the Hambantota Port,
which are vitally
we have highways to nowhere. What about those then?
Yeah, so I mean, see, you can't be making absolute statements of that nature, because I mean there are certain policies that were brought in which has done good to this country. I mean, open economy to, you know, a technology enabled governance, which has happened, but the issue for us which we have happened is corruption. The corruption has taken precedence over everything. So I think local council is important.
Is that where we should start?
Exactly. I think what I think is depoliticization of the local council systems is what is important. And also to understand how you can make these councils like little administrative structures. Now, these are all cost centers. Can they be converted to profit centers? I mean, they think the councils are mainly, the objective of councils are to clean the garbage, to ensure cities are kept clean, clean your drains and things like that. But then there's way more that you can do through the councils. If you understand the women and the children in the area, I mean, 52% of the population are the women. And then you get the maternal clinics, you get the daycare centers. How can these be developed? How can modern Montessori systems be brought in? And, you know, how can we have good systems? So things like that. There are a lot the councils can bring to the table. I mean, in terms of education, if you take, you can put up libraries to ensure that the students in these areas are groomed into better educational facilities and cities of areas of excellence. So I mean, it is a nice for a mayor, for a passionate mayor, can actually deliver something good. I think that is what, and the central government, I think one thing is we have this three-tiered governance system, Parliament, Provincial Council and the local council. The local councils have operated merely as just to manage, but I think it can play a bigger role, and I think the central government also can look at local councils in a different sense and about, you know, generating more funds to the council. So I think a complete overhaul will be good.
Complete overhaul
will be good for a leader who can.
I hear what you say, as do all our viewers. Now then, send us your questions. We're thankful to all your questions so far, but send us some more. 0772 300 305 0772 300 305. Probably cards coming up on your screen, but if not, it's 0772 300 305. But Leni, Fernando, tell me this. When this country is in the throes of, here we go, economic crisis, dollar crisis, income tax crisis, food crisis, lack of planning crisis, and every other crisis under the sun, do you think that the people will pay much attention to local government elections? And if you like, you can give us that answer after the break.
Sure.
We'll see you on the other side of the break after looking at the headlines from that splendid primetime news team from News First. We'll see you on the other side.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Professionals declare Black Week to oppose new tax regime. Multiple trade unions take to the streets. Legal fraternity up in arms against repression of attorneys working to preserve judicial independence.
68 දෙනෙකුගේ ඒ නිසා ඒ සියලු නීතිඥ මහතුරුන්ට විරුද්ධව නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න යනවා. අපි කරලා වරදක් නැහැ. අපි කරලා තියෙන එකම වර තමයි අධිකරණයේ ස්වාධීනත්වය ආරක්ෂා කිරීම.
University academics speak out against repression of democratic protests.
මේක ඉතාම දරුණු ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී පැවැත්මට කරපු ප්‍රහාරයක්. පවතින නීති ඉතාම නිර්ලජ්ජිත ලෙස අවභාවිත කරනවා.
GCE advanced level exam commences amidst continued power outages. Government fearful of having to dissolve parliament after local government election results. A statement from Professor G.L. Pires accepting postal vote applications ends today.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you. Experience the best in healthcare at Durden's Hospital's new Alfred Place wing. We continue to evolve into a purpose-built hospital of the future, with an ambience built to deliver world-class care. Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Ms. Lihini Fernando, who's an attorney at law but representing the SJB and is a candidate at the forthcoming local government elections from the Morato area. Now, so back to the question then, Lihini, in between all these different crises that we have, you know, not that I want to bore the public, but you know, we do have an economic crisis. We actually also have a political crisis. We have a social crisis. We have an income tax crisis. We have a dollar crisis. We have a food crisis. We have
Crises of every nature.
We have crises of every nature.
Yeah.
And we've got a crisis of not having a properly elected leader as well.
Exactly.
He's appointed by Parliament and so on. So do you think that in between all this, the people are going to really pay much attention to this local government poll?
I think it's important for us because, you know, having elections is important. It's people's franchise and people are the sovereign right.
Are you worried about statements that says that we don't have enough money?
No,
we
I'm
had
not
the Minister
worried.
of Tourism say that to the BBC.
That is a big lie. Our revenue is 4,800 billion. We can surely allocate 10 billion for elections. And why is elections important? Because local council elections are already, you know, lapsed. The time has lapsed, so it is time to have the elections. Any leader who values democratic principles of a country must ensure that elections are held. Elections do not happen based on the popularity of the political party or not. If you have to go out of power, you have to go out of power. It is the people's right. People are the sovereign in this country. People must be given the due right to exercise their franchise at the right time, and no leader at any point should suppress an appropriation bill. You allocate the money, and you can't, you know, and it's, you mean to say now if he's going to have a presidential election, is the president coming to come and say we have an economic crisis and we don't have money to
Therefore, I shall carry on.
I shall carry on. Will he say? No, you can't. If your time lapses, you have to have the election. That is the people's right. And why is LG important? Because I mean, for this country, we need political stability. For country to gain economic stability, political stability is of paramount importance. And we right now, the parliament there, though it's legitimate, there is no legitimacy. Because people from the Araga layer, the president who had the 2/3 majority was ousted, and then even the cabinet that is there is not the cabinet, does not comprise of the MPs that was originally elected. So actually, you and I are being governed by a set of people who does not have the mandate. So people must be given a chance to exercise their right. And I think, I mean, we the SJB is not all the time asking for an election that is not due. We don't come and ask for a general election because we know Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe cannot dissolve the parliament until February 28th. So there is time, but then LG elections, the time has lapsed. So it is time for the government
Let's take this question. It seems relevant. Dear Madam, local councils need training in attending to the people. A help desk needs to be set up. Yes. People come to the community for help rather than visit divisional secretariats, village headmen, etc.
Exactly, fully agree. I think not just help desk, I think tech-enabled governance systems must be brought in, hotlines must be brought in, websites, web-based payment systems can be brought in. How do you lessen the traffic? How do you make the whole system transparent? I mean, these are basic things that can be implemented. Why they don't do that is for us, inefficiency, bureaucracy leads to corruption. If you are a leader, if you are a mayor who is sitting there, who is actually against corruption, who if you really want to provide service to the people, you will ensure that you will bring in proper systems and procedures. We need processors. How do you minimize the people? It's all people-centric. It is, you need to know the Nagarika Mantri to make sure that your light is changed, or your drains are clean, or your garbage is collected. I mean, this is 2023. Yes. I mean, it is an utter joke. If I'm a taxpayer, the government must ensure, the councils must ensure that these things happen on a process. So it is the prerogative right of the people. It's the people's right. And I also blame the people. People do not question. How knowledgeable are we? We must question that if we pay taxes, are we getting the service? I mean, just because you voted for the SLPP, or just because you voted for the UNP or the SJB, you can't deprive of your service. No, that is what is happening. I can clearly say that is what is happening in our councils, in our areas. It is shameful to say for us, roads are being tarred, the SLPP houses, you will tar. Then you will stop within the UNP, back then UNP, you won't tar that area. Then again you will tar the other. I mean, what a joke. And where is standardization? There is no standardization. I mean, there are municipal engineers, but you know, the budgets that are allocated from the tendering process to the procurement process, everything at every point is corruption. So I mean, I've said this all. So you need a complete overhaul in the system, and you need to get people with the right intention who can do that.
How's the women's representation doing in Mortua?
We have leading good candidates who have been ex-councillors, I'm running again. So, I mean, we will ensure that the 25% of women representation is maintained, because it is very important, because that the women's voice is given due recognition. And there again, women who are running now are far more experienced than what they were before. And they are being able to, they can bring a lot to the table. And I think, you know, we must look at women representation not from a gender perspective, because the gender angle should not be the way. It's equal people running for positions, and knowledge, and everybody must be viewed as equal people, equal councillors. So just because you are a woman, you should not be discriminated. I think this is a good chance for women representation to be further strengthened, and that is also one of the reasons for us. I think this particular regulation must stay without being revised, and we must run for another term.
Well, I can almost hear the Women's Brigade shouting for joy after having heard those words. So, you know, well done. But in all seriousness, how much of a litmus test will this be for the ruling SLPP? Are we going to find a situation perhaps that the SLPP found out when the public voted in the droves for them some years ago?
Yes, so SLPP, have they delivered? What have they delivered to this country? What have they delivered to you and me?
Well, one president who ran away.
One president who ran away. We are in an economic crisis. They delivered a system of corruption. They delivered a family who was far more wealthier, and they made people stand in gas queues, and people are suffering. I mean, you and I, our taxpayers, are loyal citizens of this country. We shouldn't suffer. We are all suffering because of the ill administration of this SLPP. So if they have done injustice by the people, they deserve to be kicked out of governance. And I think this LG elections is the point. People must show their resentment. People must show their resentment that they are actually angry for the situation that SLPP put this country through. I'm sorry to say this for us, but that is the truth. And I hope people will be wise enough to select the right people and the right candidates. And I represent the SJB, and I can clearly say from Mr. Sajid Premadas to the candidates that we have lined in for our councils. Our Moratu, I can clearly say our objective is to make a depoliticized local council system. We will not tolerate corruption at any point.
How do you, in between all this, how do you reduce Samudri beneficiaries?
See, that is a government's. It's a central decision. It
Right.
must come from the same. But Samurdhi must be. I think Samurdhi must be replaced by a social security net in this country. We do not have a proper social security net that looks after the people. Again, Samurdhi is also a politicized system which Mahinda Rajapaksa built in 2005 to ensure that they have Samurdhi constituents that they can bring in truckloads and busloads for their elections. That's what Samurdhi was all about. And I can very well say when in 2015 when the Yaha Palaniya came to power, we got involved and we gave Samurdhi to about 1,500 people in Moratuwa areas who hadn't got Samurdhi simply because they were UNP.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yes,
that's why I asked you the
so
question.
that is what I'm saying. You have to develop a social security net where everybody, if you're given a certain guideline indicators that if you are below this particular income level, you will be entitled. And that entitlement can be a food allowance, a food subsidiary, it can be a development allowance, it can be an education allowance. So a proper social health allowance, a proper social security net must be designed for this country.
And what kind of commitment do you have at the SJB to have that kind of legislation passed?
I think SJB as a party has the right intentions. We have the policies, we have the people, we have the team that can deliver. But unfortunately, we see how the media is playing. Media is certainly taking a different turn on how the party is positioned. But actually, if you really take people, the candidates who are out there, their intentions to develop this country are right. And the policies are right. The policies, I mean, where are we the social market economic policies which can actually drive this country forward. So SJB exactly knows what needs to happen. And I think SJB must be given a chance. Because we do not talk the popularistic political narrative. We do not, maybe our meetings are not as flash and flamboyant as what we see right now. I mean,
will they be flash and flamboyant after you all win the next lot of elections?
See, that I think, people must be wise enough that political rhetorics doesn't take you anywhere. I mean, now today we see one particular party coming and having flashy meetings out there. Nobody today is questioning from where they're getting all those money to have flashy meetings. I mean, you are
friends.
You are overthrowing one regime, and are you bringing in another regime who is also doing the same thing? People must question for us. I mean, people must question whether where this money is coming in, who is funding them, and at what cost.
So those are the questions.
Those are the questions. So, and also the rhetoric that they are selling, is that rhetoric, can they actually deliver at the ground level? I mean, talking strategy, talking what we can do. You can be excellent political orators in stage, but actual ground level delivery for us is far difficult. And you need to have people who have actually been in governance, who have run ministries, the likes of Harsha, the likes of Iran, how they talk, because I mean they have practical experience and they are saying what they have actually done and what can actually happen. So I think, irrespective of parties, we must select the right people, and I think SJB has the right intentions to take the country on the right track. And no better chance if people want to win, I would say SJB is the way to select. So
SJB, in your view, is the route for the people's victory?
I think so. I think local councils, it's time that SJB, because I can very well say in Moratuwa, SLPP has ruled us for 15 years, and we have not got anywhere. We have nothing significant has happened to the city. The city is like I don't want to say what it is today. So I think we need a different administration altogether.
Sri Lanka suffers from favoritism, corruption. VVIPs are never punished. Even good governance failed in this respect. To date, Mudalige lies behind bars. Lini Fernando, thank you very much for being on Newsline Live. It's now time for the primetime news from Newsfirst and that wonderful team. Take care, have a great evening, and God bless you all.